Welcome to Report Live. I'm Bob Coleman, and we're talking Main Street and the small business lenders who help it grow. Thursdays with John Riossi. John, good to see you. As always, we missed you last week. Anything going on in Washington that's keeping you busy?
Yes, we were up early Monday. Let's just put it.
I don't even know what day that was. Let's see. Well, why don't we start with, we have some poll questions, but let's get into John's report. And John has a number of stories. First of all, what's going on with, you wrote an article about the smaller PP applicants and banks are having issues with that. What's going on with that?
Well, I want to clarify with issues. They're certainly having issues. They're not having what you might call philosophical or ideological issues. They support the intent, I think, up and down the board of what the administration is trying to do. Their issues are more logistical. And that is, some of it is, you might call it PPP wariness, that this is yet another change that will require re-engineering to systems and everything involved with that. And then there's another big sort of embedded problem with this is, they're going to make the smallest borrowers, let's call them micro businesses, eligible or, for much more funding under this new formula based on revenue as opposed to profit. But what do you say to the borrower who just got the loan? Particularly,
well, that's a question we have, John. Can we go back and increase the loan?
Exactly.
No. We don't know the answer.
Not yet. Right now, the answer is no. But I think I think that's being reevaluated.
John, what is your definition of a micro borrower?
We're talking about sole proprietors. We're talking about businesses with a handful of employees. In the regulation, it's 20 and fewer. But I think the businesses that really suffered from this, the ones that qualified for amounts that really perhaps weren't worth pursuing, are those really, really small businesses. And essentially, sole proprietorships. I'm trying to think of good examples off the top of my head, but it probably, covers the spectrum. Every type of really small business that was, and this is, now we're not talking about businesses that couldn't link up with banks or credit unions, couldn't link up with lenders. Now we're talking about businesses that probably linked up with lenders and just got an answer because of the formula that wasn't worth it for them. They couldn't be helped.
Let's take the Uber driver. Is that a fair example?
That's a fair driver, yes.
And let's say that they showed $50,000 in gross revenues, and being a proprietorship, they got nothing on their Schedule C. So now what we're talking about, the loan is based, obviously they have less than, by the way, I get to correct you, it's 19 employees or less. Katie's confirmed that. I want you to know it's not.
Yeah, it is a little bit confusing.
So that Uber driver now is eligible based on gross revenues, or that line 7, whatever that is.
Yeah.
We divide it by 12, we multiply it by 2.5. So if I'm on the fly, my math is, let's see, divide by 12, 4, so about $10,000 that they get, right?
Right. And they've gone, now I don't know how they would have calculated their finances, but $50,000 couldn't have been a lot of profit. So they go from
or a lot of revenue, but
they go from maybe a few $100s or $1,000 to potentially $10,000, and you multiply that by millions and millions of borrowers.
So my first question is, these are pretty unsophisticated borrowers. Are they going to know about it? Are they going to take advantage of this? What's going to happen, do you think?
I think the banks, the lenders, I should say, and I apologize for, I'm an American banker, so I'm sorry, but the lenders are going to, in these cases, they're going to have to do a surprising amount of marketing, because you would think that by now everyone on earth knows about, at least sometimes that's what I think. Everyone on earth knows about this program, but that might not be true, and then there's that I guess that bias on the part of a lot of people that they're not eligible. Maybe they applied and didn't qualify. Maybe they just never tried. Maybe they're a little bit intimidated by the process because of everything they've heard. This has been a sort of a rough program. It hasn't been smooth. It hasn't been easy.
Right.
So there's going to have to be outreach done to reach these borrowers and to encourage them to come in. And I know several banks that are starting that right now. Community banks, large banks. The borrowers that I have talked to since Monday.
I love your quote. It's like giving everyone a train ticket on an unfinished railroad. I mean,
I'll get back to the logistical and other issues that have really been a feature of this program since day one. So.
But the lenders you're talking to, I mean, what's their? I guess I'm a little confused. Once you get the stuff in, it's a slam dunk. But what's the problem the lenders have? Is getting the correct information? What's their issue?
I don't think it's necessarily a lender problem. It's you're talking about a whole class of businesses that don't have. And when I say banker relationships, I don't mean that are unbanked. I mean that don't have, say, a small business banking relationship. They have a checking account, I'm sure. They have debit cards, all that, all the consumer side of banking they've covered, and that's probably what they've been financing their businesses with, perhaps. But they haven't had a relationship. I had a chance to talk to a business owner. And it's a business probably a little bit angry now because they just had gotten a loan or had gotten approved for a loan before the new program adjustments came out Monday. But they were talking to me about that, how they had never prior to PPP they financed their business basically on the fly with personal reserves, with probably consumer debt. So when PPP hit, they had no relationship with the small business side of banking, and they struggled until just recently to get a loan.
Yeah, I understand that. And we want to clarify also that they still need to be eligible for the guidelines. They have to have a 20% reduction in a quarter, correct? And if it's a restaurant and hospitality, those secret codes, they do get 3.5 times.
Right. If I'm wrong, the 20%, doesn't that apply to second draw loans? The reduction.
I'm sorry, I stand corrected. We're talking about first draw loans on these people.
Well, perhaps not on some of them, but for most of them, first draw loans, and obviously they might down the road shortly, down the road, if they can get their first loan, be eligible for a second draw.
Yeah, thank you for that. What was the impetus for this?
This came from the White House. That was made clear by one lender I talked to. Prior to the change in administrations, a lot of the decisions were made, I'm sure at SBA, but also at Treasury. But now there is, I guess you'd have to call it a higher level of interest in this program. So I have to admit that I wasn't as conscious of this issue prior to Monday as I should have been, but I've got to say a lot of other bankers were that I talked to, and maybe I'm certain there was some discussion, some dialogue behind the scenes with the administration. A lot of lenders, a lot of Coleman borrower advocates were also very aware of this issue, and they probably played a bigger role.
But you can't beat yourself on this. I certainly had no idea this was coming, and I would imagine the majority of the lenders also did not know this was coming. So
yeah, I didn't certainly didn't know it was coming, but learned now that it's needed.
Yeah. Katie, go back, or Joseph, go back a slide. Katie, do we know what the average loan size is this year on these PPP loans?
I know they're slightly bigger. Oh, John probably has the answer for us.
Go ahead, John.
I'm talking strictly 2021 loans. is as of the 21st of February, at least, so there might be fresher data, I don't know, was 73,000. And that's down from 2020.
And how much is that down, just to refresh our memories?
I think it's down in the neighborhood close to $40,000, the average size.
Yeah, that's about right. By the way, Katie, as an aside, I like your background. It's very nice. You're you can get the
Yeah, if
Seattle.
only you can actually see Seattle all the time. It's usually pretty cloudy.
Uh-oh,
Fake news. It's sunny out there. I love it. So let's wrap this up on the next topic. But overall, John, thumbs up, thumbs down. I know just overall, what do you think overall?
Well, I think this is a very significant and important change for the program. And just on one note, to leave things on an uncertain note, it creates two real questions. One that we've discussed, which is what do you do with the borrowers who had gotten loans under the old formula? And that I'm sure is being discussed. It certainly is being talked about. Number two, does this mean, since there isn't much time, they don't even have the regulation out yet, so this isn't really active yet, does this mean that March 31st is going to be, that sunset date is going to be pushed down the road?
I mean, if I had to vote, I would say yes, but I don't have a vote, but I would guess I would do it. Tell us about what else is going on in Washington. Let's see. What's the next slide we have, Joseph? Is SBA's PPP workload impacting other facets of its operation? And I hear crickets. Is that your question, John? Or
well, I'm beginning to think it is, just from.
Oh yeah, I mean it makes sense. It makes sense, yeah.
But it's beginning to impact it in perhaps beginning is the wrong word. It's impacting it now. We're finding in more significant ways, particularly with the lenders I've talked to with 504 decision times, the turnaround times on those loans. And just some of the basic parts of 7A, like obtaining the guarantee. If one of your 7A, conventional 7A borrowers defaults, you're entitled to the guarantee under normal circumstances. And I understand that is now becoming a little bit tougher to get. So, basic transactions, everyone understands why. So it's not really a criticism of the agency. It's just
correct.
I
agree. I was just going to say that. You took the words out of my mouth. It's not a criticism. It's a fact. And I would imagine also that the pressures that are affecting the agency, and we've had polls on this, also affect the lenders themselves. They're learning as they go, and it just seems every day another bombshell hits in terms of changes to procedures and what we need to do. So go ahead.
The one little thing I'd like to put in people's mind is, you look in those weekly lending reports at the 504 numbers, and they're at record levels, higher than last year, and last year was a record. You wonder what they could be, because obviously the slowdowns act as a brake on lending on the numbers, and so you just wonder what they could be in a better circumstance.
Well, and again, I go back to comparing this financial crisis with 2008, 2009. 2008, 2009, there was no capital. Banks were closing every week. This time around, no bank closures, and there's plenty of capital. The government has made the decision that they're going to do this. That's above our pay grade to determine whether that's a good idea or a bad idea, but it's there, and the money is definitely flowing to Main Street, which is what we all want. So
yes.
That's what's going on with the administrator. Do we have a new administrator yet, John?
No. I think I will admit that behind the scenes.
Are we going to get a new administrator? How about that for a softball?
I think yes. I think
okay.
I'm surprised there were even 5 votes against the nominee, but it's just a matter of time. And talking of another government agency that might be sort of overworked and overloaded, The Senate, now you just have, you're just waiting until they can schedule her a vote.
And everybody's come out in favor of her. The modus operandi here is that the trade organizations, everyone gets to write a letter supporting or not supporting. And I have not yet seen one negative letter. Everyone's saying, good choice.
Not everyone, apparently.
Well, 5 senators. But that happened with Linda McMahon also.
Yes.
When Trump nominated her there were a number of no votes out of the committee because it was a Trump appointee, and here I'm sure the no votes are because it's a Biden appointee. But that's neither here nor there. Let's see, what else we got, Katie? I know we're trying to solve our eyesight issues. Is this chart any better, or are we, well, it's a little bit better.
It's a bit better. I think we still would like to see it a little bigger. And if you can't read it, we have included it in the handouts for you. But this was included in the SBA's video conference yesterday on 11/12 payments. And it's a fairly useful chart here that walks you through what to do. If you just look at the top one, check the date that that the loan was approved, and it'll walk you through and let you know which basically the next steps, whether it's going to be able to get those payments and if there are other payments available. So they've kind of broken it out. The green section means they're getting payment. The yellow section is going to be a section where you have to stop and look at it and see if it's in a certain category, it might get additional funding, in which case if you're answering yes to those questions, it'll get, in both of those cases, another 3 months of payments. And then the orangish red color is going to be no payments, unfortunately.
Well, it's
so they still walk you through each section. It is a very helpful chart, I think, for figuring out if your loans are going to get these payments or not and how much payments they're going to get.
Yeah, and this is, yes, we're not stealing. This is SBA's chart. We're just trying to position.
Yeah, no, we've just made it bigger. The SBA's, I think their actual chart is in our handouts, but this is all the SBA is doing.
Yeah, meaning a microscope or a magnifying glass. Hey, and to clarify, this is both for 7A and 504. So
right.
that's a good. Let's get to some questions real quick. Katie, what do we got? What's the first one you got there?
Disqualification for lending related businesses. So we discussed this already, I believe, yesterday on the show. In general, yes, lending related businesses are disqualified from participating in PPP.
Okay, but this is how the answer desk looks, and this is what we're doing. Let's go to the other question, Brenda, and we keep getting this question, but what do we do? And it's a great question, which is we've had now, John, we've had a couple of borrowers who got PPP round 1 and they've passed. What do we do now? They can't apply, they're sold, they're not applying for forgiveness.
Generally, the advice is you're going to talk to SBA, inform them of the situation, and then they'll help you walk through the next steps. In some cases, you're going to have a borrower who has some other employee who worked for the company or some business partner who would be able to apply for forgiveness for the business. In other cases, it's going to be a little more complicated, but the SBA will be able to walk you through the situation.
Yeah, so just send an email to the answer desk. Barry asked a question on round 2 applicants. Must everyone meet the 25% reduction? I believe I earlier said 20%. I misspoke, obviously. And the answer is yes. We still need those. John, I'm going to ask you one last question, then we'll go. Do you see the 3.5% NIC codes 72 going 3.5% of payroll? Do you see that as helpful? Any feedback from your perch that is helping the restaurant shuttered venue business?
That's an interesting question. I think it's new enough that it's hard to say at this point. But that's something we're checking into, because I do know, once January 15th hit and the program reopened, after that first brief period where
Yeah.
before it was open to all the bankers, but once it became open to the general lending world, it was for a couple weeks a second term program.
Yeah, and I guess what I want to know is that going to make a difference? That's really what I want to know. Is 2.5, should we have gone to 5%? Should we have gone more or less? Is 3.5 the magic number? Is that the answer? None of us know, and I'm just raising the question.
I think it'll make a difference. I think the issue for those industries was you took too long.
Yeah, well, yeah. Now we're coming up on a year. We're coming up a year when we're reading the papers and what's everyone talking about? The world's coming to an end. Got a bunch of questions. Katie's going to put those up on the answer desk. If you want a specific answer, we're trying to figure out how to get you a day pass on that if you just want your answers. So we're working on that. John, as always, thank you very much. I appreciate you joining us. A lot of good information, and I hear no kids in the background. What you do? Throw them all in the closet? No comment. No comment. Very good. Katie, I like your background. Good to see you all. And thank you for joining us today for Coleman Report Live and for supporting America's Main Street, one entrepreneur at a time.
Have a great day.